Hey everybody, it's Charlie with 4BZ Truth. Just walking around the neighborhood, breaking the law, not wearing a face mask. They're basically wanting us to wear a face mask. But anyways, the point is, this video is not about my position on whether we should wear face masks or not. It's actually about trying to understand the situation we're in as they continue to do more lockdown measures. I'm just going to say lockdown because the reality is they're changing our reality before our eyes. You know, everybody's supposed to wear face masks to protect others from yourself. I wanted to contrast kind of two topics that I've presented on my channel recently. So the exosome theory by Dr. Andrew Kaufman is one, and then the other is mind over matter by Eric Dubay. And so this idea of this virus being spread that's airborne is actually not necessarily a virus. I mean, if you actually have looked into Andrew Kaufman's theory, and it's not just his, but it's basically the he goes it's exosome theory and then versus germ theory. And exosomes are created by the body, and they look exactly like viruses under electron microscope, and hundreds or thousands of times smaller than a cell in the body. Now there's something interesting I've been thinking about, the way that chemically our bodies communicate with all our cells in the body. So like if your brain actually thinks about something, you can actually manifest in the body sickness, or you can manifest just different your body manifests how it thinks and feels, basically. So if you're always angry or always depressed, your body's going to manifest certain chemically changing your thoughts can chemically change your body. In other words, I'm going to set you down, bud. Here, walk. Let's walk. Hold Dada's hand. Okay, walk. Sorry guys, my little guy doesn't want to walk anymore, so I'm just trying to get my arm not to fall off here. But yeah, so the exosome really is just an excretion or a chemical change in the cell when there is toxicity in the body. And what I actually wanted to point out about that is that not just your mind, but your cells communicate, and your body is a network of, or your mind or your brain is a network of cells or neural chemicals exchanged, basically. And as soon as that chemical reaction takes place, it's kind of like it is a reaction. It actually changes from one cell to the next. And basically, forgive me for being out of breath. Carrying my little guy and walking can take a toll on somebody who I actually might have COVID, to be honest with you. But I don't know if that's true or not. I've been feeling fatigued, so I'm trying to just keep moving. But anyways, so the body communicates through chemical communication. Now, the interesting thing is when you actually exhale, you may have some sort of RNA sequence escaping from the body. And if that's true, the RNA sequence is literal chemical communication that's escaping from your body. And if you're chemically releasing like this neural transmission, and that when I say neural transmission, it's a chemical transmission. Like an RNA sequence is literally like blueprints. You're communicating with your the aura around you, you might say. And if you actually are sick with something, the reason that there's a spread to others is because they operate on the same level of communication when it comes to a chemical reaction. So if on a cellular level, if you're releasing toxins from the body or exosomes, the exosomes are actually acting like a little transmitter that can go airborne, in the sense that if it spreads to other people, that it's really just communicating with their body and creating a chemical reaction. So, not to say that the bodies are sick, but if you're in the same environment as someone else and you have some sort of issue, that you're fighting off, or like some sort of toxin that you're, ejecting from the body, that neurotransmission that's taking place, or chemical reaction that's taking place, spreads to somebody else, because your RNA sequence is actually communicating with their cells once they breathe it in. So their body, so that's the hive concept.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
So in a hive, if we are a herd mentality, I guess, if we are a herd in the sense of, congregation, we can communicate with the other hive by ejecting these RNA sequences out of our snot and our I think that anybody that gets this disease is actually the body's response to an RNA communication. And it may not be actual toxins, but I think that they probably genetically mutated. No, bud, let's walk. They genetically, in a lab, mutated this communication, this chemical communication that's happening. So when people get sick from someone else, it's actually that person's RNA sequence that's being ejected from their body, and they're given this code that the body interprets as toxicity. And so this is literally a hive concept, and it's trying to protect the others around you by getting their bodies to respond in the same way that your body is responding. And because the goal is to keep the hive healthy. If the hive isn't healthy, then everything is going to die if the body doesn't respond. So we're literally transmitting this chemical communication from our body so that other people will start fighting it before it even affects them. Now, whether they have it or not may not be the issue. It's maybe just it's a preventative measure that this communication is trying to prevent other people from having the same sickness. Now, I'm just going to say right now that cytokine storm, or whatever the inflammation that is caused from it, may not be you trying to fight an illness, but it's just the RNA communication from this other person's illness or whatever, or even just, I mean, everybody that actually gets it will be ejecting these RNA sequences from their nose or mouth or whatever, and or even sweat. Come on, bud. And if this is true, then everybody is supposed to get it, but the problem is this is probably genetically modified in a lab, whether it be Wuhan or whatever. Our bodies weren't supposed to fight it off. We were actually, in the sense that that's not how it was designed or mutated, is that people aren't supposed to, they're not supposed to fight it off. We're actually, and some of the people can fight it off, I guess, but obviously the majority has fought it off. But I think it may be intended or designed so that it can come back and keep coming back. Maybe that's true. But face masks aren't going to do a damn thing to help you. I think that if we can receive that neurotransmission or that RNA sequence through the air, our bodies are going to have a chemical reaction and create their own cytokine storm. If your body responds that way, who knows? This is just my theory. I don't know. Don't quote me on it. But it sounds reasonable to me. And it would be something that I think we should test in a lab. But I think that this biological warfare that's happening is literally a mutated coronavirus that was created in a lab that now we have to have a herd immunity. If we don't have a herd immunity, then we'll never be able to fight it off. So keeping us locked indoors, keeping masks on or whatever, people have to get this in order to be able to create this RNA sequence that will communicate to others. This is how to fight it off. Because without that communication from one person to another, we will never find that herd immunity. So when people were fighting me on this Facebook post about, people in Sweden having a herd immunity, people are always like condemning Sweden. Oh, they should have locked down like everybody else. But the problem is, if you had locked down, you would never have the herd immunity. These bodies need to communicate with one another. I need to freaking communicate with my son. I need to communicate with my wife on a chemical level. And if I don't, they'll never have the exposure that they need in order to be able to communicate chemically. This, I know it probably sounds kind of crazy, but it is along the lines of mind over matter and the Andrew Kaufman theory of exosome theory. He hasn't really elaborated on how there's a chemical transmission from one person to another, but it's literally communicating from one body to the next on how to respond to this illness. And it's not even an illness necessarily, it's like a chemical response. So like, I was next to my supervisor, my body is responding, and I'm probably going to end up with that RNA sequence. I'm probably emitting that RNA sequence. And my son might get it, my wife might get it, and that's okay. You know, if you look at the curve, you know, this curve that they're flattening the curve, I think that we're supposed to go into a herd immunity curve, and you can start seeing the increase in cases and the drops in death because of the herd immunity. It's because people are communicating with the RNA sequence. Anyways, but that's basically it. I want to try to elaborate more on this in a more formal video, but this is kind of my rant that I wanted to talk about. So if you guys have any thoughts, let me know. Sorry, I'm like panting over here because my little guy's wearing me out. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later.